May 2021. Gas stations across the United States begin running dry. Long lines form. Prices spike. Panic spreads. But this wasn't a hurricane. It wasn't a war. It wasn't even a physical attack. It started with a password. And in less than a week, one compromised account helped shut down nearly half of the East Coast fuel supply. Colonial Pipeline isn't a small regional company. It operates over 5,500 miles of pipeline, transporting nearly 45% of the East Coast's gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. Every day, millions of barrels move quietly beneath cities and highways. Most people never think about it until it stops. In May 2021, Colonial stopped, not because the steel pipes were damaged, not because of an explosion, but because of ransomware. The attackers didn't break through some futuristic firewall. They didn't hack into the physical fuel systems. They logged into a VPN account. That account used a password. That password had been previously leaked in a data breach and was found online. And here's the detail that changed everything. Multi-factor authentication was not enabled on that account. One password, no second layer. Access granted. There were no dramatic alarms, no flashing warning signs, just a successful login. From there, the attackers began what cybersecurity professionals call lateral movement. They explored the internal network. They identified systems. They escalated privileges. Modern ransomware groups don't just smash and grab. They move carefully. They map environments. They look for backups. They locate sensitive data. And when they're ready, they strike. The ransomware group behind this attack was known as DarkSide. After gaining access and moving through Colonial's network, they deployed their payload. Systems were encrypted. Critical business functions became uncertain. And Colonial faced a difficult decision. The physical pipeline infrastructure wasn't directly damaged. Fuel could still technically flow. But billing systems, scheduling systems, and operational coordination were compromised. If you can't track fuel, invoice it, or coordinate its distribution, you can't safely operate a pipeline of that scale. So Colonial shut it down. Fuel deliveries across large portions of the East Coast stopped. Within days, gas stations began running out. News headlines amplified the fear. Drivers filled tanks prematurely. Some even filled plastic containers and trash bags with gasoline. The federal government declared a state of emergency to ease transportation regulations. All of this from a compromised credential. Colonial ultimately paid approximately $4.4 million in ransom in cryptocurrency. Later, the U.S. Department of Justice managed to recover a portion of that payment. But the disruption had already happened. Public confidence had already been shaken, and a powerful lesson had already been delivered. This wasn't a zero-day exploit. It wasn't cutting-edge artificial intelligence. It wasn't a highly classified cyberweapon. It was a leaked password in the absence of multi-factor authentication. In cybersecurity, we talk about authentication, access control, segmentation, and monitoring. These aren't flashy concepts. They aren't exciting headlines. But they are the foundation of defense. When authentication fails, attackers get in. When segmentation is weak, they move freely. When monitoring is insufficient, they go unnoticed. The Colonial Pipeline attack was a case study in fundamentals. Multi-factor authentication adds a second layer. Even if a password is exposed, an attacker still needs something else, a code, a device, or a biometric factor. Without that second layer, a password alone becomes a key to the door. Network segmentation limits how far an attacker can travel. If systems are properly isolated, gaining access to one area doesn't mean gaining access to everything. And monitoring tools can detect unusual logins, abnormal behavior, or privilege escalation before damage spreads. In this case, those defensive layers were either missing or insufficient. Ransomware today is not random. It is structured, organized, professionalized. Many groups operate like businesses. They buy leaked credentials on underground forums. They scan the internet for exposed VPN services. They automate login attempts. When they find a weak point, they exploit it, quietly. The Colonial attack revealed something uncomfortable. Critical infrastructure is not immune to basic mistakes. Size does not equal security, and complexity does not equal protection. The truth is, most major breaches do not begin with dramatic Hollywood-style hacking scenes. They begin with access. valid credentials, legitimate entry points. No alarms triggered because the system believes the user is authorized. And once inside, attackers don't need to rush. They can observe, adapt, escalate. For businesses, the lessons are clear. Enable multi-factor authentication everywhere possible. Monitor login behavior. Limit administrative privileges. Segment networks so that one compromised account cannot access everything. Practice incident response planning before a crisis happens. For individuals, the lesson is just as relevant. Password reuse is dangerous. Leaked credentials circulate online constantly. Without additional protection like multi-factor authentication, any exposed password can become a vulnerability. The Colonial Pipeline incident wasn't really about fuel. It was about math. It was about probability. It was about a system that trusted a single factor of authentication in a world where billions of password combinations can be tested in seconds. In cybersecurity, breaches rarely begin with explosions. They begin quietly, with a login, with access, with trust placed in a single string of characters. And sometimes, all it takes to disrupt millions of lives is one password without a second layer. Cybersecurity isn't magic. It isn't mystery. It's layers. It's discipline. It's fundamentals done consistently and correctly. Because when those fundamentals fail, the consequences don't stay digital. They reach gas stations, airports, cities, and everyday people who never knew that somewhere, behind the scenes, everything depended on a password.